a few years ago at the office building that I work at here in Santa Cruz, some people moved into a neighboring office, and it looked like human trafficking to me. And so I called the national hotline number that I got out of this book, because I had been reading this book. And I called the hotline number, and they contacted the Human Trafficking Task Force in San Jose, because that's the organization that's in charge of investigating human trafficking in Santa Cruz County and the surrounding counties. Task Force offered to give a talk to people in Santa Cruz County to explain what would we look for and what would we do if we suspected human trafficking. And so that's what we're doing tonight. That's what caused this event to happen.
So what is human trafficking? Basically, human trafficking, very simply, is the greatest civil rights violation known to man right now. We have more slaves worldwide than we ever have in our time. It's modern-day slavery. Human trafficking. In 2000, the federal government came out with the Trafficking Victim Protections Act, and they had to say the 13th Amendment still exists, having slaves is illegal. And there was a case in 2010 where 2 girls in forced prostitution were sold for $300 to a pimp. In 2000, the federal government came out with a definition of human trafficking. And it's basically the obtaining of any person, transporting, provisioning, by means of force, fraud, or coercion for the purposes of forced labor, or services, or sexual exploitation. We're often asked, what are the numbers worldwide? What's going on, or what's happening locally? These are numbers the U.S. Department estimates 100,000 people are trafficked each year across borders. $32 billion annually is what is made off of human trafficking worldwide. The penalties still are weak, so the gains outweigh the risks still, especially in the state. What we have for forced prostitution, for human trafficking, the most you can get if it's an adult is 6 years. The most you can get if it's a child is 8 years. Forced labor, again, 6 years. So it doesn't have a huge penalty attached to it at this point. And who are the victims? You know, they're vulnerable people. I've often heard people say that they're weak. In my experiences and hearing other people speak of their experiences, they're not weak, they're vulnerable. They're very strong to go through what they go through, but they're desperate. Different forms of human trafficking. For the sexual exploitation, you do have the brothels, massage parlors, the street prostitution, the things that are on the surface that you can see. Bride selling. If it's a contract and everyone's over the age of consent, it's not illegal, but what you see is the servile marriages where they agree to become a bride, but then it changes where they get here, they're actually a slave. Labor, you have the agricultural farm work, obviously cleaning services, restaurant work, domestic servitude. We're seeing these things, again, the labor side of it is one that is much more hidden and harder to detect. But even U.S. citizens can be trafficked. Again, you don't have to cross a border. You can be a U.S. citizen trafficked if someone is forcing you to do something against your will. Los Angeles in 2009, and this was prostitution. The youngest victim was 13 years old, and she was an American citizen. And they found her while she was still being trained, so she was watching pornography over and over to learn what to do. So in Brookfield, Wisconsin, in 2004, a human trafficking victim was rescued in the home of 2 doctors. This is the home. In 1985, this woman, Irma Martinez, was brought from the Philippines as a domestic servant. You see that it was an 8,600 square foot home that she cleaned and took care of for several hours every day, the whole day. Cared for children. She never left the house. These are the rules that when the federal government went and rescued her, they found posted. These are the doctors. She was rescued in 2004. She was a slave for 19 years. Whenever someone came to the door, she had to go in the closet under the stairway. When she traveled, she had to be in the back seat or covered up. She talked to her family, I think, 4 times in the 19 years that she was there. They had to pay her $900,000 in back wages. That's not punitive. That is labor coming in and saying, based on federal minimum wage, here's how much you should have made. And they received 72 months in prison combined. Again, this is just modern-day slavery. If you take nothing else away here to talk to people about, it's modern-day slavery. Make sure people are aware of that, because we've all heard trafficking, drug trafficking for years, which means smuggling drugs. So people think human trafficking means smuggling people. It does not. It's slavery.
Hi, I'm Jill Morrison, the Managing Director for the Not for Sale campaign. How can we make our communities intolerant of human trafficking? First, they need to learn about it, which is why you're here today, and then they need to talk about it. I can tell you right now, the thing that you can do that will be the best thing you can do when you leave here today to help stop human trafficking is to talk about it. Go home, put it on your Facebook page. Tweet it if you Twitter. Talk about it to your employees when you go to work. Talk about it to the people at your church. Talk about it to your family members, to your neighbors about human trafficking. The number one thing you can do is talk about it to everyone that you know in your sphere of influence. So what we say with the zero tolerance community is not everybody just talking about it, now let's everybody act upon it. As a business, let me look at my business procedures to make sure I'm not contributing to human trafficking. And I'm going to say this, and please don't be offended, but every single one of you in here has contributed to human trafficking. Every single one of you, me included. I did it today, I'm sure. From the coffee you drink, to the chocolate that you eat, to the clothes on your back, to the phone that you talk on, that has contributed to human trafficking. And I don't mean to shame you, because we all do it. I work for an anti-human trafficking organization, and I talk on my cell phone all day long. The minerals that are used in that cell phone are often mined by slaves. They're often mined by children. We've got to change that. We have to hold ourselves accountable. I won't drink anything but fair trade coffee. I'll just do without these days. I don't eat anything but fair trade chocolate. I do my part. We need to work with apparel industries, and we need to work with the tech industries to change, and we are. It takes time for these things to change, but we can make a change by learning about the issue, talking about the issue, and making better choices as a business owner and as a consumer.